Hi, this is Wishop, and this is your 2019 first quarter forecast. This is the Geomancy reading for March. So what I did was basically a shield spread where the top row is January, the middle row is February, the bottom row is March. If you want to know how shield spreads work or geomancy in general, I'm going to leave my playlist in the description box and you can look it up then. The other thing I did was I made the two witnesses and the judge. This was the outcome for January, outcome for February, outcome for March. So what I had here was a situation where you were pursuing something with great practicality and serenity. And then in February, you kind of maybe took a walk on the wild side. And what I'm seeing here is there's a sense that this sort of dipping into vice has kind of brought you a little bit of embarrassment or exposure. Like, this is not a secret. When you kind of went walking on the wild side, it became known. If Albus here in the 7th house represents a partner who has become too stable, maybe noble, maybe very nice, but maybe too boring and stable, because that can be that was something that came up in the other 2 months reading, if you want to check those out. These readings can all be mixed and matched as you please, but this one, there could be a sense that maybe a relationship, maybe it had some problems, and maybe you got back together and everything's really stable and nice, but it's almost too stable and kind of boring, potentially. And there's been a little bit of socializing that's kind of brought out the wild side, I guess I'd say. And that is something that has become known. That's not a secret. And I think that's really interesting because it looks to me like even though people know about it, and you might be a little embarrassed about it in some ways, I don't know, there's the sense of this passion that's been kindled in you is something that people are happy to see. So let's say this does involve a relationship or some approach that you've been doing where to clean up a messy situation, you locked it down by getting very sane, very smart, very reasoned, very chilled out, until you got so chilled out that you actually went off the deep end. It could be that the people in your life are actually kind of happy to see a little spark of the old you, and that's actually considered kind of a positive. And that I think because we end here with Puea, girl, your good sense is going to reestablish itself. You are going to be able to take smart action again, sane action. You know, your feet are going to get back onto the right path. But what you're going to gain from this, I think, is a level of trust in yourself. That just because you took this little walk on the wild side, and just because people knew about it, it doesn't mean that you're ruined. It doesn't even mean that all your efforts are ruined. But it does mean, because we have a Missio as the outcome, that you lose something from it. And so I'm looking for the loss here, because here you had the gain that you made from sort of getting everything in order, because things were not sensible. Things were kind of crazy and nuts, and it took you some time in January to put things in order and just get things into a comfortable state. And that was very, very good for you. And then you sort of started making some changes in February, maybe a little bit of vice, a little bit of fun, a little bit of passion. And we end up losing something, but what we could be losing might be this partner, because we see this red and this even number has changed to black, and it's stayed odd numbers in black. It's stayed in motion. So the idea is if you had a stable relationship, here in the seventh house, then it may be undergoing change, because this kind of walk on the wild side you've done might have just been too much. Maybe after a really terrible relationship that was really awful, you rebounded into a very, very nice, very steady one. But it might be a little too steady and kind of boring for the long haul. You might feel just a little bit too frozen in place with it. I don't always get these kind of love readings, but this one kind of looks like it could be. Certainly that is one way to read it. But I feel like in terms of your actions, you're going to leave the idea that you have to be stuck to be sane. You're going to move through this sort of falling off the wagon and into this position of self-mastery, of trusting yourself. And I think that other people in your life, possibly not this partner, but other people in your life are actually going to be happy to see a little spark back in you by March. And it's going to kind of put the sparkle back in your eye. But you may lose something from it. So you may lose this relationship. You may lose a little. This is a temporary card. It's an odd number, so it's transient energy. It's going to move through. But there's a sense of loss with Taurus here. You could lose maybe some possessions if you were sharing house with this person. So there might be some loss there. You might lose the partnership. You might lose a little money if you kind of went on a wild bender and then you end up having lost some money. What I like about it is when you ended last year, your head was not in a great place. And the most important thing is your head is kind of in a good place. And your heart is in an okay place. And I feel like your passion is kind of coming back. And you can kind of trust your own behavior. I don't know, this looks like a recovery quarter. And you might have had to recover through a little gain and a little loss. You tried to recover by locking things down too tightly. It was very smart. It was all done very well. There's nothing wrong with it. But you did eventually kind of break out, probably in the social circumstances. And this socializing brings whatever you're up to other people's attention, which could be a little bit embarrassing. So there could be a little bit of loss of face, a little idea that there's a little loss of status because now people know that you kind of went a little nuts. But what's really most important is that you reserve your own good self-esteem and that you now know that you can get back on the wagon, whatever that means. I mean, it could be debts, it could be, whatever it is. You can get back on the wagon because you can trust yourself. You know how to manage your passions. I really feel like this Rubius, this passion, instead of being like sort of mindless actions, this is now like in your guts. This is like what you want. This is deeply the passions that you feel, but it's guided by some really good stuff. And you're not hiding it. You're letting other people in on the secrets of what you care about and what you want to do. And you're able to freely share it with other people, to share what you're passionate about, what you're interested in. There is a sense of almost like going kind of hermit here, like going into a cave so that you can be virtuous. And here there's something that's maybe a little easier to share, a little more social, a little more friendly. And I think people are going to be happy to see that. And I think you're going to be happy to see that from yourself. So even if you lose a little temporarily, it sure looks like through the whole process, what you've really gained is yourself. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting and fun. And until next time, rock on with your bad selves.